What is happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly, and we are 3 strong today. All of us are on.
Strong is a strong word.
Yeah, it is. I mean, to be on with all of us is a big deal. So I'll take it for sure, But yeah, I think today will be a fun show. But I'm going to let you guys know that we're not going to be on next week. I think next week is the election. I think it's a big deal for a lot of people. Cat's away in Japan for 2 weeks.
I already voted. I voted. Yeah. Don't worry. I did my due diligence. But
so we decided that we're going to take next week off, and then we'll be back the following week. Just so you guys, I don't know how many people care about the election, but I think maybe you should. And so we'll let you guys watch that and take care of that. So,
and there's not that many big books tomorrow, anyways. Besides Spider-Man, that's really
not a big week. This week,
is a very, very slow week. I think we were discussing on chat that I think I have the most, maybe 12 or 13 books that I'm actually reading. That's not like variant covers or back issues or anything like that, but new comic books at least.
Yeah, I think I had about 9. This week I had 20, and then the week after that, which it sucks I won't be on for the live show for that, but I know like Absolute Superman, Batgirl comes out, but so I will miss that one, but issue 2s will come out for that, and I can talk about it when the issue 2s come out.
Yeah, it's all good. It's a good week to miss next week, though, for sure.
Oh yeah, next week's an easy one, so we'll be missing that. But then again, Brant and Mike will be on, and then I'll be on the week after that.
So real quick, I just want to introduce the people that are on. We have 26 viewers right from the start, so that's kind of cool. We got the name that changes who's on. It says Ola. We got D's Comic Corner. It says I love Absolute Wonder Woman. I think more than Batman. Razor Comics says what would it do? Comic book guru, super excited for Absolute DC. I'm all in. That's good. We got Gumbo Hot Pizza says Spider Slayer, where are you? And I'm so sorry.
I wonder what they're sorry about.
Yeah. And then we got Joseph. Is this Joseph's Wolf? That says the new All In books last week were also good. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will definitely talk about those books in a few minutes. Actually, there was very little news that came out, so I'm going to pass it on to Kat to go through those wonderful news pieces that we have this week.
So many big news pieces. So also, if I still sound nasally, I was telling the guys I have had COVID. So it was like a very low case of COVID, but that is New York Comic Con crud was actually COVID. So I'm still getting over that. I am negative, but I'm still getting over some COVID. So that's why I still sound not great. All right, well, let's go into the news pieces. We'll talk about the comics first. Kylo Ren is getting a comic book, so they're trying to do more of the Star Wars stuff.
I think it's fine. I mean, I'll learn more about Kylo Ren, and, there's not too much you can say about it, but I think his comic book, his original one that came out was actually kind of popular, so why not do another one, especially now that you got all this Star Wars stuff that takes place right after Return of Jedi. So
I was also wondering where Charles Soule was, and I think he's on this book. I was wondering where he went, and I was like, oh man, it's been a while since I've seen his name besides the Devil book. And then I realized he's just been doing Star Wars this whole time, so that's why I haven't seen his name.
Yeah,
exactly.
So all right, moving on to Absolute Batmobile is coming. I think that's been shown since New York Comic Con, but now we have like a legit photo of it, so we're gonna take a look at that. So this is the Batmobile. It looks like a fortress. It kind of resembles the Absolute Batman, who's a bit of a bigger guy, so why not have a bigger Batmobile?
I mean, it's absurd, right? I mean, maybe like this is like maybe his
that's theirs
mobile apartment, I mean, it's just it's absolutely insane. I really want to see like the ins and outs and the inner workings of this thing. It's funny how they compare it to big gigantic dump truck. I think
Wow.
that's kind of awesome, right? It looks just like it, but
Yeah.
I do want to see the inner workings of it, and like, why does he have such this huge thing, right?
Yeah. It's definitely different. Yeah, we've never seen a Batmobile quite like that. So not built for speed, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. Watch it have some kind of like super thruster on it or something.
Very Fast and Furious. All right, and I think we have one more news piece, which is Spider-Man 4 is happening. I know it's one of those weeks. I think because after New York Comic Con, they announced everything, and then we got to that point. But yeah, Spider-Man 4 is officially happening. We kind of knew that was going to happen. Honestly, another week this wouldn't even be a news piece, but there wasn't much to talk about. So I'm like, why not? Obviously, speculations of like what's going to happen next. I don't know. I'm curious because the movies, ended with the Spider people of different universes coming. I don't know. That's going to tie into more of the other movies, but also Zendaya and all of them don't remember he's Spider-Man. So yeah, no, I really loved that movie. So I am obviously excited for Spider-Man 4.
Yeah, I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man too. So I was, kind of sad when we were like, there was rumors like there weren't going to be any more with him and everything. So I just think he fits the role really well. I like what they've done with that group of movies. So I'm excited to see what comes next with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in my eyes, I always thought there was going to be a Spider-Man 4, so I'm kind of like
Yeah,
not surprised by this. It was just always the thing of like, well, who is it? Is it going to be Tom
right,
Holland again? Right. So
right.
I'm glad that they're sticking with him and that he's sticking with it as well. And he was always young enough to play Peter Parker from the start. So it's good that
Yeah,
he's hanging around. Right.
A lot of first live stream people. Thank you for watching. We had a first new sub, and then we have a first live stream. Thank you guys for watching some Spider-Man Noir talk. I did see the pictures for that. That was like leaked set photos. Also, I was supposed to see Venom this week, but because of the COVID, I couldn't go see
yeah.
it. So it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, I want to see like Venom, and I don't know about Spider-Man Noir, but be interesting.
Yeah, I want
I
to see
still
it
haven't.
too.
I still haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine. I still haven't seen Guardians 3.
It's
I'm
on
so
digital
behind.
now. I think
I
it's going to
know.
be on Disney Plus soon, so you're going to be able to
Yeah,
watch that. You know.
Yeah,
yeah.
Deadpool and
I gotta
Wolverine is
catch
definitely
up.
worth watching. I don't know
Yeah,
if I'm
for
gonna
Right.
see
sure,
Joker
dude.
too, but
You're gonna
No,
see it, and
I
you're
didn't
gonna be
see
like,
the
"Why
first
did
one.
I wait so long to watch this movie?" Because
Right.
it
Yeah.
really is that
It
good.
it was one of those things where we kept planning to go to the theater, and then something came up. We had to do this, we had to do that, we had to go this place, and then it was out of the theater, and we were like, "Oh man!" So now it's kind of waiting for that. So yeah, it's just one of those things.
there's a lot of things that showed up because Deadpool and Wolverine was in theaters for like 4 months.
Yeah, no, it's just it was one of those things. Could never make the time for it. So
No, it totally makes sense. But now that's going on streaming. I hope you get to watch it. And no, I
yeah,
feel you.
sure.
Like again, like Joker 2, but mostly the bad movies. Because again, Joker 2, I hated the
Yeah,
first Joker. I didn't like it. So hearing that the
I
second
didn't
one was
watch it.
even
Yeah.
worse, I was like, I don't want to see that.
That's
And then
bad.
Venom.
That's really bad. That Joker was that bad, man. The
Oh, I
second one.
know.
Yeah,
I had no interest. And then with Venom, I'll eventually see it because it's Spider-Man. But
of
I
course.
like
Yeah,
the Venom movies. I think they're fun. I have a
I
good
do
time,
too.
but they're not ones that I'm like, wow, if I never see Venom, my brain will explode. Like, Deadpool and Wolverine was more of that, where I was like, I have to go see this. This seems so fun.
Right.
With Venom, it's
Yeah,
like, oh, if I wait a few weeks, I think I'm okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really wanted to go see Deadpool Wolverine in the theater. It just didn't work out. But Venom, I'm like, yeah, I can wait for that. That's no big deal. But amazingly, I have not gotten spoiled about anything about Deadpool Wolverine. I don't know how, but
Will not spoil
nothing.
it for you. There's some
Yeah.
really good stuff that happens in there. I'll say
Yeah.
that depends on what era of a movie fan you are that you'll enjoy
Right.
it. And the people I went to go see it with don't really care about Marvel. So
Mm,
they saw it as like it was fine. And as like a huge Marvel fan, I
yeah.
was like, that was everything.
Right. Right.
I had no interest in seeing honestly Venom
Mhm.
until like Null was shown.
Sure.
Mm,
Because on that original like trailer, I was like,
It looked fine.
man, oh man, this is just not look that great. Like
yeah.
I've seen them and I've seen them all at home. Did I watch Carnage in the movie? I did actually see Carnage, Let There Be Carnage in the actual theater. I did see that. But I
Yeah.
think it was like a couple weeks after it came out,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up on some of the movies I missed. Like, I'm hoping to see Substance this week for like a Halloween thing. That was supposed to be really good. But yeah, no, it's been, as everyone knows, for everyone, it's just been a busy couple months. And I have my AMC stubs, but I haven't had the chance to go to the theaters to go see the movies I literally want to go see. But yeah, I think there's a couple other. Captain America comes out soonish, I think, and then there's Craven. Comes out sooner than later too, and I'm like, oh man, I want to see the train wreck that's Craven more than anything. I'm like stoked to see Craven.
You know, speaking of Venom, I renewed my Marvel Unlimited membership thing, right? And they were having this thing where they gave you a promo code for Venom. It was like Venom 24 or something like that. And when you renew, you got a free Venom omnibus, like physical omnibus,
that's
not
nice.
Digital. So I was like, okay, for $60 something, I'm getting Marvel Unlimited for a year and I'm getting an omnibus. So I thought that was worth it for
that's pretty good
renew for a whole year for that.
No, that's a good deal. I have it like automatic, so I don't know if I'll end up getting if you have it on automatic. But that's
I think it's like you have to like physically
renew.
Yeah. You know.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, that's cool. I like Marvel Unlimited for like maybe stuff that I didn't read in the past, and I could go back and read it since it's like, I think right now the current issues are like in July.
Yeah, they're usually like
August,
6 months.
September. So it's like 3 months behind.
Right.
So
not bad.
It's not horrible.
But yeah, that's we have a comment. I will say I'll talk about some Kickstarters too, but let's talk about the comment and just jump in. Have we talked about DC yet? That's gonna be, I have a feeling we're going to talk about that as we talk about the comics. I think we're going to want to talk about some of this week's comics and then kind of have that overall talk. So we will have that after we talk about a few comics. We are going to get to the comics next. I'm going to talk about my Kickstarters real quick, and then we will get into it. So let's do like Follow Like Daughter first. If you guys could see it, I think you can. This one's my superhero book. It's about a high school girl. Father left her to become a full-time superhero, and everyone in the world loves him except for her. And then she inherits his abilities. It's a very like Bruce Timm style. Tango does a great job here. And this issue in particular has to do with the aftermath of the origin stories. Spoiler alert, but her dad dies and she has to take over the mantle. And she does something pretty bad in the last issue to kind of make her torn as like, am I a good person or not? And that's kind of the big arc for the issue. So if you guys go check that one out, I'm going to put that in the description soon. And then this one is Witches of Oz, which was launched yesterday, and we're already at $30,000, which is crazy. It's our mature series of Glinda and the Wicked Witch finally getting together. And this issue, if you ever wanted to know the origin story of Glinda, here we are. We get to visit her kingdom, figure out what she was a princess of. So really exciting issue, and really proud of this one and glad it's doing well on Kickstarter. And also mentioning Like Follow Like Daughter again, it is so close to funding. It's like $50 away. So hopefully you guys could check it out.
You can put that Kickstarter over its mark right now.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's catch up on Like Follow Like Daughter, and you guys could make it fun. But yeah, excited about both titles. Go check it out. And I think we are going to move into our comics. I am curious how we're going to do the DC topic, but I don't want to like spoil thoughts on certain books. May we do like up to like 2 or 3, and then we'll talk about the main topic.
Okay. So yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about first let's talk about TMNT, and then we'll go into Iron Man, and then we'll go into Absolute Woman or Absolute
Absolute Woman.
Absolute Woman.
Is that the generic form? It's just like Absolute Woman.
I can't wait until that comic comes out.
Maybe what I'll do is I don't know. I'm trying to see how to tackle it. Maybe we talk about all the other books except the
DC
ones.
Let's do that.
Books.
Yeah, let's do that. I think that, and obviously as we go through the top, maybe we'll have some DC books to talk about. But
we'll talk about them because I read a lot of them this week. All right,
me too.
Yeah. So let's talk about Kat's least favorite book in this group, TMNT. This is issue 3. This one focuses around Leonardo and kind of his his situation and what's going on as he's trying to find peace. And he got to hang out with a bunch of mud turtles, and then he, I guess, faces a bunch of Foot Clan soldiers, and then he meets up with his brothers. So out of the 3 issues, not that this was a bad issue, but out of the 3 issues, this was my least favorite of them all. And I think you could be biased with this series so far on like who your favorite turtle is. So you're like, oh, I like Leonardo's story because he's my favorite turtle, or I like Mikey's story. But with the 3rd issue here, it's kind of like very predictable what we're doing at this moment right now.
Right. Yeah, this one, not my favorite just because of all the, turtle stuff and introspection and, let them eat me. Oh, now I'm a turtle, a real turtle, and all that stuff. I was like, I understand what they were going for, but it was like, okay, we get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But where it ended up with, them kind of reuniting and realizing they're all being hunted down and teasing the, Donnie's issue next and all that stuff. I like that part of it. So overall, the book has been really good. It's just this issue, like you said, was probably the weakest one so far.
Yeah, Cliff Chang artwork in it too, so Kat would have liked that one too.
So. Yeah, I wish I could like the turtles more than I do, but because I that first issue, I remember thinking this is great. I'm sure Turtles fans will like this, but as someone who doesn't like the Turtles, it did nothing for me. I was like, I mean, like, look, even Transformers is a great example. When you're just not into a franchise, it could be the best book ever, and you're like, no, I'm kind of lost. Power Rangers, I think, is a great example. On Mike's side, he's never been a huge Power Rangers fan, and even though it's a good book, it's harder for him to get into it.
Exactly. Right. I have this love-hate thing with like Power Rangers, man. I understand what they're going for. It's kind of cool, but
that's not for everybody.
For me, it ripped off Voltron, and I'm very bitter about that.
that's where the core hatred comes from.
And it interrupted my makeup session with my girlfriend.
All these years later.
Yeah.
All right. So real quick before we move on, since I just did this really quick, so it's kind of crappy, but since I wasn't on last week to talk about the IDW logo, I just wanted to share our new logo. The CBW.
I love
the
it.
W in the middle.
Yeah, I can see it. It's really, it's actually
man. Where's the W? I don't see it, bro.
That's a really crappy rendition right now, but
so funny. That's awesome.
Sorry.
No, that's hysterical.
We can continue now.
No, I'm glad that we have a new logo. We're gonna be posting it everywhere. It's so much better than our logo now. I can't wait.
It's so much more professional, man.
We do have a couple of comments too.
Oh, go ahead.
KG Comics has just said that Absolute Wonder Woman was overrated to them. So we'll talk about that later. And then also just because D's Comics Corner, new channel, new subscriber, I want to answer their question. Thoughts on the new Penguin comic? I wish we had a better answer, but I don't think any of us read the new Penguin comic. A lot of people like it. I know a lot of people say it's a good series, but I don't even like the new Penguin show, so I don't really need to read the comic.
I haven't watched it yet. I caught like 20 minutes of episode 4 at a hotel, and I thought it was decent, so I thought I might go back and try it, but
I know a lot of people love it. I was a little bored by that first episode, but I'm glad for people who do like it.
That's cool. All right, so let's go on to all 3 of us read this book, and I'm gonna have a huge feeling that I'm not sure about Brant, but I bet Kat hated this book.
This is my least favorite book of the week. I hated it, but and obviously, subjective. Yeah. Iron Man. It was very I love capitalism conversations. I enjoy commentary about that, but it was so boardroom heavy, and I was
I agree.
Not feeling it. And the artwork I thought was not strong. It just didn't do it for me.
The artwork. I mean, he looks so frail and so skinny.
Yeah. I was like, on purpose.
Odd. Yeah, I don't know, because I'm like, I know he was in the hospital for a while, but would he really lose that much muscle mass? I don't know.
I know. And grow his hair that long.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And he has that long of a beard, and he was just like all messed up. So when I talked about this book, I talked about it, and I didn't like 3/4 of the book. but how it ended up, like with Justine Hammer being in control of like his armors, and then
Yeah.
bringing back like the Ironmonger, and him having to create, like a much more simpler armor again. I thought, okay, well, maybe now this book might get better as time goes along. Maybe this was the boring issue before things maybe pick up. So I liked how it ended better than the way it started. So I'm definitely going to give it a second issue. It was just above average for me.
I haven't liked an
Yeah.
Iron Man series since like Tom Taylor, and I think that's been a shame. Or Matt Fraction, I think Matt Fraction's run was great, and I like Superior Iron Man, but I
The
haven't.
last Iron Man run, though, was actually the Krakoan one was actually
I
really
know,
good.
Yeah, I like
I
the
know you
Krakoan
enjoyed
one.
that one.
Yeah.
I went in and out with it. I couldn't completely get into it, but I could see at least that was different. This feels like everything else we've ever seen with Iron Man. But we're gonna say, Brett.
No, I mean it's I'm kind of in the middle of all of that. It's like there were elements like you, Mike, that I appreciated, and I like it does kind of harken back to all the Armor War stuff and everything. But again, we've seen that before, and
Yeah.
they tried to differentiate it, saying this Stark rocks on war, but we've seen him battling for his company over the past like 5-6 years.
Exactly.
So that's not new either. So it's like I want so much to like this book and to attach to something, but I don't know. I kind of like the direction that it's going, but at the same time, the art is kind of disconnecting me a little bit. So
Yep.
I'm torn on it, honestly. So
That's why it's like, again, I like the ending, because it's like when you saw the armor stuff, like it at the end, it kind of looked
Yeah.
cool. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I needed another issue or two to see if I'm going to continue it or not.
Yeah, I think I'll at least do one more.
Right. Okay. So let's get into our number 5. And obviously, if it is a DC book, right, just say it, but we won't talk about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I will say
Yeah.
with the one that this is, we could talk about it because it's outside of all in. So I think we'll be able to talk about my number 5.
Is it Zatanna?
Yeah. So it's last. I think we'll be okay with that. I guess I'll go because I just
that's
said
fine.
that. But yeah, it's Zatanna. It's the last issue of this Black Label book that's not really related to All In. I think this is the weaker issue of this run, but and this tends to happen with Mariko's titles. I think that she doesn't always stick the landing with her last issues, but I still love this book, and I really like the things. I really like the ending of this book. Honestly, it made me want this to be an ongoing. It made me want this to be an all-in book because I was like, wow, this could go so many places now that she knows that she has magic and she might join the Justice League. Like I like this book a lot. Again, I don't think it was a perfect finale, but I wish there was more. That if you've never read Zatanna, read this. I think it's a great book.
Yeah, I agree. It's not this. It definitely was the weakest issue of the whole series. I enjoyed the series overall, but this issue in and of itself, like you said, it didn't quite stick the landing for me. So it didn't quite make my top 5. But yeah, I enjoyed the story overall.
It was like a kind of a quick wrap up. I thought it was like very easy. But what I always enjoy is I enjoyed the characters in the book. Like I enjoyed Zatanna. I enjoyed the rabbit characters. Like I did enjoy the ending, how now she is not afraid of using her magic, and how she scores the big hotel and she gets the act at the end. And like, I like the happy ending,
Right.
Again, for me though, like when she does use her magic and that psychedelic stuff goes on in the comic book, it's awesome, so definitely I agree with you guys though, not the strongest issue, but still was overall, when you look at the entire series as a whole, it's definitely something that I think you should read.
Yeah, I
get that trade.
All right, Brant, so what's your number 5?
Mine's Detective Comics. So
okay, we'll talk about that later. And my number 5 is actually X-Factor issue 3. For me, I think this is like between Uncanny X-Men and X-Factor. These are the 2 books that I enjoy. I think X-Factor, I'm at that point right now with it where it's like, this just seems like these guys go on these random missions and they're just dealing with it, and you're learning more about certain characters. So this one, you learn about Granny, right, and how she found out her immortality and how she
Granny's so
actually
fun.
wants to die, which is kind of hysterical. And then you kind of got the overarching story of just Havoc with Polaris being missing, and you know, and him, you know, working for X-Factor and doing what he thinks might be right for now. So but this was a fine book. I mean, it's more of the same, and but I find myself enjoying it. Like, I read it, I laugh, I have a good time with it. You got all this different commentary where they say, oh, hey, yeah, we you know, want to we appreciate you, we treat you like family, but hey, sign this non-disclosure agreement and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good book. I like it.
You know,
Yeah, go ahead, Kat. I was just gonna say that part. It's classic, like London writing. There's always some kind of little message in there, a little commentary, which I appreciate in this one because it's humorous and it's not hitting you over the head with anything. But yeah, I'll save the rest of my thoughts because you started talking, Kat. So go ahead.
No, I mean, I'd say real quick, I still think the first issue was the strongest. I think that was the most cohesive. But I agree, Mike.
Yeah.
I like this series. I think it's really fun. It's an easy one to read. I like these two creators a lot, so that makes it easy as well. Yeah, I like the grandma. I think she's cool. Obviously, for me, I think Uncanny and Exceptional are the two titles that I enjoy the most. But X-Factor is in there too. I enjoy the title. I want to see where it goes. It's interesting that all of us like Uncanny and like another title. But X-Men, man, we'll talk about that later. But that's a book I'm struggling to keep on my book list.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I am.
Go ahead, Brad.
I was just gonna say, Uncanny X-Men's my number one, obviously, and I go back and forth between Exceptional and X-Factor, so it's kind of funny. This issue,
look, at least those are the three best
titles.
titles. That's the you know, I think that's the easy thing to say, at least.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to say for the viewers that actually just come on, we're holding off on all the DC talk. So, you know, we might say, hey, our number 5 is Detective Comics or this and that, but we're going to talk about all the DC comics at one shot, and then we're going to give our thoughts on DC All In as a whole, as a whole conversation here. So just hang on tight while we work through our countdown, just so you guys do know.
And Brand, I think you had more thoughts on X-Factor you wanted to share.
I was just saying this wasn't my favorite issue. I felt like the comedy just, I don't know, for whatever reason, I wasn't in the mood for it, I guess. It was very corny comical, this issue. And I like the first 2 issues better. The issue 1, I agree with you, Kat, was the strongest. So yeah. I'm just hoping that it continues to, I don't know, keep my interest going forward. So
I'm more interested in the inner, like Polaris. I think that's interesting to me, and that's where that piqued my interest the most in this issue.
It'll be interesting to see like how serious it actually gets, right? Like how far are they gonna take that? So hopefully they do, because like I said, I feel like that's the major story right there.
Right.
You know, and then everything is kind of secondary. That's the way I look at it. All right, so let's move on. I guess that was my number 5, right? So
yeah.
We're gonna move on to. All right, let's talk about not Rook X's X-Men issue 6 first. So we're just talking about X-Factor. So now we're talking about X-Men issue 6. Personally, for me, I feel like a lot of this is more of the same. We get more of, hey, I found another mutant and I have this power, or I caused this situation. The thing that I find interesting in this book is the whole situation with Magneto. Like, what's going on with Magneto? Beast is trying to cure him and stuff like that. But besides that, I don't have any like real attachment to this book. It's kind of frustrating because I'm kind of like, let's move it along at this point, because this is nothing that I don't know. To me, this does not feel like really an X-Men book, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the problem for me is like a lot of the character work is very light, like very surface. You get just a little bit of from magic, oh, I had a crush on young Cyclops, and then they dropped that. Cyclops had moments in a couple of the earlier issues, and now we haven't really seen him. Beast in the first issue, and just a little touch of it in this issue. So it's just the character work isn't as strong as I would like it in this book. I like some of the things that are going on, like you said, the Magneto thing. I like Idy kind of spotting the protester that's flashing a mutant sign. I like those little things, but as the overall kind of composition of it, there's something that's not quite clicking for me. So I've enjoyed like 2 issues out of this 6 issues we've had.
So
I
this
can think
book,
Go
real
away.
quick, with this book, I think suffers is the Jed McKay team up situation or
Sure.
team book, because just like in Avengers, if you see, once again, he puts 2 heroes here, 2 there heroes here, 3 there heroes there, and he tries to spread it all out and make it a cohesive story, but it really isn't. It feels disjointed when he writes it. And
Yeah,
I've noticed it in Blood Hunt, I've noticed it in Avengers, I've noticed it in now his X-Men. But
Yeah.
it's not
And
like
it's-
that in Moon Knight.
in Moon Knight, right? That's what's so weird, because even Black Hat, even though you're still working with a lot of characters, like Moon Knight, you have a whole cast of characters, like 5 or 6, characters that you're following. He treats them differently. Like, he treats supporting cast different than he treats teams, and I think if he treated them more like the team, and I think they shine more that way. I don't know. It's just,
Right.
I mean, as the you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
because I
It's
agree. The
interesting.
character work is where this struggles the most. Like I'm like, oh, I want
Yeah.
to see more from Magic, and you're like, oh, I didn't get a lot from her. Or I want to see more from Cyclops. You don't get a lot from him, and it's
Right.
just, which is interesting because I think this era of X-Men has been so great with character work. Again, you have like a solo series, like exceptional, and then you have X-Factor that balances the heroes because they all die besides obviously Alex. And then you have Uncanny X-Men that keeps it really small. I actually think that's been why I've been enjoying this X-Men era so much, but this main title doesn't quite do that.
No.
It's just,
I mean,
it's so weird to me because Jed's so good at character work,
yeah,
in other
absolutely. I
books,
mean,
yeah.
you're 6 issues in at this point, and your characters are basically hanging around the base the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, we need to do something more than that and talk, So I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's move on to Rook Exodus. This is issue 6, the conclusion to the first story arc, and super awesome book, man. I mean, you get Rook that just sits there and battles Ursaw, and you find out a lot more stuff in this comic book. You find out a character that's related to Direwolf and how integral he is until the planet survival. Just really great stuff. So when we talk about character work, right? The character work is beautiful in this comic book. The artwork is absolutely beautiful in this book. And I absolutely love everything about it. And I'm so excited on what's to come when it comes to this comic in the future. Unfortunately, we're not going to see it again until January.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a short break at least. If it was going to be like March or something, I'd be like, oh no, I got to have my Rook fix. I love this book. This is usually my number 1 pick when it comes out. We'll see if it is this week or not. I thought it was fantastic, the stuff that we learned about the world and about her dad and kind of what's happened to him, teasing what's obviously to come in the second arc. The only nitpick I would have for this issue is that his battle with Ursaw ended so quickly.
I agree 100%.
Right?
I was like, that's it. I was disappointed with that.
Yeah.
But I do like learning about Ursaw on how he is still a mystery. You can't remove his helmet. And he was sent here only 4 months ago.
Right. That was very interesting. Yeah.
By the company to destroy all the other wardens. So now you know why he's there. So I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And like you said, his face is like fused to this mask now. So it's, I don't know. It's opened up this whole other, kind of possibility, because they feel like, Earth was destroyed. Now this planet's destroyed, but obviously there's people out there, doing stuff, and maybe they find another planet. I don't know how that's all going to play into this, but I like that, this whole arc was Rook trying to leave the planet to ultimately accepting, hey, this is my home. I'm going to defend it. So.
Right. Absolutely.
We do have a question from the Bronze Page Comics. Will Amazing Spider-Man finally improve now that Romita and Zeb Wells are gone? It's hard to tell, because honestly, if we're being honest with ourselves, and we've been reading Spider-Man for decades and decades and decades, we always say that after every run. They're like, "Oh, is it gonna be better after Nick Spencer? Is it gonna be better after Dan Slott?" It's a rooted issue. If you notice, it's not the writer, most likely. It is whatever's happening behind the scenes with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I've honestly just accepted that Amazing Spider-Man's never going to be the best title ever. And just enjoy Ultimate Spider-Man and wipe your hands away from it, because that's going to make you happier.
And it's hard to kind of say too, because this particular story is not the creative team going forward. This is just a story right now until they find somebody. So kind of just enjoy as much as you can this story as possible. I'm just going to plug something real quick. I'm doing a Amazing Spider-Man Zeb Wells wrap-up video. It's going to be on Saturday on my thoughts of the entire run of Spider-Man. So
that should be
that's going to be a
interesting.
fun one. I went all out for this bad boy. I got notes, talking points, like all kinds of stuff. I'm going to go off. I know I am. I'm going to get into it.
The Watcher says, do you think Jed McKay would do a good Spider-Man run? Yeah. I mean, again, we all like Black Cat, but also I will keep saying this until whatever. I just don't think it matters at this point. I just think they really do stop the writers from doing what they want. And I honestly think Nick Spencer's run is a really great example of that. We saw building blocks to trying to retcon one more day and try doing anything. I think that's why that run span its wheels as much as it did, because I really think there was just like an internal struggle between writer and editorial when it came to that. And it's like just written on the wall.
Yeah, it's like Spider-Man's one of those characters that they have hard, fast rules, and you have to play within that sandbox, and they do the best they can with it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's hard because, as fans of the character, we want it to be the best book on the stands, and we're very critical of it because of that, I think. So,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So with that being said, let's move on to our number 4. And Kat, what is yours?
Not a DC book. So it's Tin Can Society issue 2. I thought it was a really solid issue. It explores kind of a different side of this ensemble cast where we get to learn more about one of the friends. We also get to learn a little bit more about the romantic relationship between the person who died and our narrator. I really like this book. It surprises me. It's a murder mystery, if you guys don't know, about a character who's disabled to end up becoming this Iron Man type hero, and his childhood friends, one of them murdered him, and we have to figure out who it is. But yeah, I think the art's really good. The first, second issue, I don't know if it was as good as issue 1, but it was a good second issue.
Yeah, it probably wasn't as strong as the first issue, just because it was so. I mean, we started off with that heavy visual of him dead on the floor and stuff, and kind of built out the mystery from there. But I did like learning kind of the connections between the different friends, and obviously the way it ended, running into the other ones in the shed and stuff. And it just, we learned that the one guy was his sidekick, and that was new information for us, and that opened up other possibilities as well. And it's just like every single one of them is a suspect, and I like stories like that where everybody can be guilty and you don't know who it is, and you could be like rooting for the person that actually did it. So it's very interesting, and I almost wonder if maybe that's where we're going, that the lead character that we're following is the one that did it. And that
I think so
twist.
too. Yeah. I think she is the one who has done it, but maybe doesn't know. Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I also think 9 issues is kind of perfect to tell this story. It doesn't feel like too little or too much.
Right. Yeah. It gives it a little room to breathe. Yeah.
This was a trap issue for me. I read this book in between a lot of books, so I don't remember so much what happened in this one. I just remember that I couldn't get into it for some reason. I don't know what it was. And all I thought was while I was reading it was, man, that number one issue for me was so much better than this issue.
Yeah.
But like you said, there were so many books this week. It's depends on where you put it in your reading list. It was hard. It's hard to get through sometimes. Which, again, I hate weeks like this. I hate when, and I look at something like next week. It's like, why the hell didn't you just put a few books next week instead of doing this?
Right.
It's harder to go through when you have so many books.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is.
Okay. Brant, what was yours? Number 4?
Mine was Void Rivals, issue 13. So this was the big Pythona Cobra Law issue, and I was really excited to see how they were going to tie in G.I. Joe with this. You know, obviously we didn't get a whole lot of it, but we do understand that like they are aware of Transformers. They've left the Earth. They're exploring it. They're trying to figure out what's going on. And so I think we'll see more of that going forward. But I also like that it's on the fringes, that we're using Cobra Law instead of like, oh, let's, throw all these Earth, military people into it. It made more sense because Pythona and Cobra Law are more sci-fi based. So that made, it just worked. So
right.
I'm curious to see how that all plays out. And at the same time, Derek, having this, confrontation with his dad, and, it just, there's so many things going on that you realize that both sides of this are actually trying to protect everyone by keeping everybody separate and creating this war. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens if they do unify and what that brings about.
Right. Yeah.
Also,
I was just going to say, because unity is the ultimate thing that they don't want.
Right. And also, I don't know if you read this in the back in the letters column. There was a letter about the Unicron thing, and somebody asking if that was Unicron because it didn't look like Unicron. And I think Kirkman replied and said, it didn't look like Unicron, but, I don't know. So it might be another planet-sized Transformer. I don't know what's going on. That was really interesting to read.
Maybe it's Unicron's brother.
Maybe.
I don't know. That would be wild. I listen, something like that's going to happen. This was outside my top 5 because I think I had my expectations of having Pythona in the book a lot more than she was.
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't expect a heavy-handed comic kind of like it was. Like, there was a lot in this comic. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of discussion going on when she was driving with Springer, and then there was a lot of conversation with the dad, and I'm just like, holy crap, this is a lot for like the first issue of a new story arc. There's a lot going on here. But definitely, though, does it turn me off at all towards the series? No, not at all.
No, of course not.
It just wasn't in my top 5. That's all.
Yeah, I understand that. I enjoyed a lot of my books, and my top 10 were like, I was like going back and forth trying to sort my books, but yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. All right. And my number 4 book is actually Absolute Wonder Woman. So we'll talk about that one later. So we're not going to talk about Superman, and we'll talk about Spider-Boy. So
I got this issue.
So you read it because you wanted to know about Spider-Girl.
Didn't learn too much. I will say it reminded me why I don't get this book, and that's not to be mean to the book. I just always remember this is not written for me. It is so written for kids, which is great. But I continue to say this. I don't know how kids are finding it, besides if they have like an adult who's like, oh, you should read this with me. And I think that's the biggest problem with this book. It's like the target audience is probably not. So you are the target audience too, Mike.
I preach this book. I really do. Not only for, maybe casual fans, but for the younger audience, for families. Like every time, because I read this book and I think Dan Slott does a great job with this book. I really do. And I think he's done a wonderful job at creating the Spider-Boy character and giving him pretty much his own voice. Like, he's got all his own supporting characters. He's got his own little origin story, how he was trained by Daredevil, We even got people that remember him now, like how he's been inserted into this world. I think Dan Slott did a nice job, like I said. And do I agree with the Spider-Girl thing? Maybe not. But
Yeah, we'll see how it ends up.
the
He likes
Spider-Boy
Spider-Girl a lot.
character, I
I think
like. I
that's
think
why.
he's a good character.
I just feel like the book feels very generic. It just doesn't. I get that it's a new character, so that's a new aspect of it. But it just it feels like it spins its wheels a little bit. But also, if you're just looking for classic Spider-Man storytelling, maybe
It
that's what you
kind of
want.
is. And that's kind of what it is. You kind of can't go too much into it. It's a much
Sure.
more simpler take, right? That's kind of what it is.
I think coming up soon is Hulkette. So
Yes.
that's
Yes, I think like next issue. So, but yeah, no, I'm glad you like it, Mike. It's not for me, but also I read it not thinking this is the worst book ever. It's just like, oh, I read a lot of books. I don't necessarily need this on my pull list.
Yeah,
Right.
that was where I came to. I read the first few issues, and I just read so many books. It was like, this is not something I need to read. So
Totally understandable, you know. And
Yeah.
I think why Dan Slott did his whole Spider-Man thing to begin with was to create Spider-Boy. That was the whole thing. So
Which is crazy to think a whole year went into that. But
yeah, hey, gotta do what we gotta do, right? All right, so now we got The Moon is Following Us. This is issue 2. I like this story. I mean, I think a lot of people would probably say that this is more like the first issue than the first issue was, right?
yeah, which I liked a lot more. 'Cause it
Yeah,
makes
you
you,
really
like,
get the
feel for
origin story.
characters.
Yeah, of everything that goes on, right? Why Penny is, in this coma or in this dream state, who these characters are, and like, which what I found interesting was kind of like she, all the characters in her mind are all like toys and stuff like that, which is quite interesting, and just the real emotional aspect of their daughter being in this state and them handling all of this was really intense as well. So I really enjoyed this comic.
I like it. It's not my favorite out of Warren Johnson's books, just because of the genre it explores is just not my thing. But I like this issue a lot more than the last issue because it does have that grounded element. But yeah, it's also hard because you compare it to something like Do a Power Bomb, which for me, I think was a perfect comic book, and I want more of something like that but maybe it'll become that. Maybe it's a bit of a slower burn. I do think there's the emotional aspect of that in this issue. I'm worried to see where issue 3 goes because I think it'll go back to like the fantasy aspect, which is just something I'm not as interested in. Like when Do a Power Bomb was doing the wrestling, there was always like it's just so much emotion attached to it. And I guess I like wrestling a little bit more than
Well, you're not a fantasy fan. And it's
exactly.
That's what it is. Yeah.
And it's so heavy fantasy. And also I don't love the art. It's the same artist that did that Robin book. It's just like it's just not for me, but it's enough for me to read the book, which is saying something as someone who does not like fantasy.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the art either, so that takes me out a little bit. I do like this issue better than the first issue for the reasons that you said, Mike. It felt more like a first issue. You learned the motivations. There was more of those emotional beats that we kind of saw in Do a Power Bomb. Instead of centered around the mom, this is centered around the kid and all that stuff. So I liked all that coming together, and I am a fantasy fan, but at the same time, this just isn't hitting me quite as hard as Do a Power Bomb did either. It's just outside my top 5. So I did enjoy it, and I'm still going to continue to read it.
Right.
But there's just something that's not quite there for me yet. So we'll see if it gets there or not. But
yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I know you're going to see, I'm sure, more emotion because when I read Murder Falcon, like there was an instance that happens in that book where you're just like, bro, and it doesn't happen until much later on in the series. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't be surprised if I could be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if the daughter dies or one of the parents die in this book, or they have to make a sacrifice for the daughter to live. Like, I could see that actually happening, So, me, I don't have an issue with this, with the other artwork. It doesn't take me out of it. I know what you guys are talking about with like the Dick, what was it, the Dick Grayson book or whatever it was,
Tim Drake,
Tim Drake book. But here it's just like I don't look at it that way. This is like an independent comic, and then obviously you understand why there's the two artists in there. But there was a lot more Daniel Warren Johnson artwork in this one than there was.
Which is why I like this issue more.
Right,
but I could tell that issue 3 is gonna be more of that, fantasy.
Yeah, in the fantasy world. Yeah.
Right.
That said, I will say Riley's artwork does complement kind of Daniel Warren Johnson's overall style. It's more, it's closer to his kind of style.
Correct.
Than like
and obviously the colorist too knows how to, draw it in there too.
Right.
All right, cool. All right, so let's talk about number 3. There's no 3 there, so.
Oh,
there isn't.
Yeah.
That happened.
So we're going to talk about number 3. So we'll dive into mine. What's mine? Oh, a book we can't talk about, so it's perfect. Detective Comics.
Mine too was Detective, so.
Yeah, that's it. So I guess mine was Tin Can Society, so we already talked about it.
Okay, cool. All right. And now we're going to dive into number 2. Because we talked about everything else and we can't talk about the other ones. So let's see. Green Lantern Dark is not an all-in book. We can talk about that one. That's just an Elseworlds book. So we can talk about that.
I read that issue and I was like, wow, this feels like it's one issue. It felt like a beginning, middle, and end, and you didn't have to read more. I thought it was okay. It's kind of middle ground for me because of that. I didn't feel urgent to want to read more of it, but also wasn't bad. I think it was the creators of a spin-off of Something is Killing Children. So it kind of has some vibe to that.
It's the same artist as Something is Killing the Children.
The actual series.
The writer is from the House of Slaughter series.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you read this comic book, you can't help but be like, this is Something Killing the Children. Like, even the main character has blonde hair. And if you just sat there and put a bandana over her mouth and gave her green eyes, it's Erica Slaughter. Now, the Lantern herself almost has a personality like Erica Slaughter. So it was just like very hard for me to wrap my head around all this. It was a decent story. I wouldn't say it was the best. I'm going to try issue 2 to see if I can get more into it. So when you talk about a story that like artwork takes you out of it, the actual artwork did take me out of it because
it's really dark.
I only want to see that artwork in Something is Killing the Children. I don't want it in a Lantern book. Does that make sense? Like I only feel like seeing that there.
I get it. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, for sure. So it's like we talk about all the time. Some certain artists fit like more indie style books, and it's hard to see them on superhero books sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay, so that's that one. So let's talk about Dazzler issue 2. I know Kat likes this book. I can't really get behind it all that much.
Did you do a song for this one?
I didn't this time. I actually practiced it. I actually sang it out loud at home, and I thought that the lyrics were so much worse this time than even the last one that I just
gotta ignore the songs.
I just couldn't do it. I tried coming up with different ways to get it, get it out and stuff, and I'm just like, I can't do it. It's not flowing right, man.
That's fine. It was fun the first time around. That's cool. Yeah. So yeah, I like the book too. Yeah, go ahead.
Me too. No, I was gonna say I think we have the same ingredients. It's like your Spider-Boy. It's something not to take seriously. It's a commentary on like Taylor Swift. It's a fun mutant story. Like if you like Dazzler, I think it's a cool progression to her character, but it's also just kind of like fun. And it's just okay. Who's she gonna tackle next? Like, what interview is she gonna be on? I just like I have a good time with it. Like, it's my popcorn flick, and I like it a lot.
That's exactly what it is for me.
Like, how long is it?
Yeah, I think it's only 5 issues.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. for some reason, Grommets didn't come to my store, but I did read it online. So, Grommets issue 5, another fun story for me to read. I hate seeing the kid get beat up, like he got beat up in this issue pretty bad. I felt bad for him because he was actually going to score with the girl, and his whole night winds up getting ruined. You know, and it's kind of stinks. But it does take a much darker turn, man, because this older jock kid, man, he just completely loses it on these kids. You know,
yeah, for sure. It was rough.
Yeah, absolutely.
seeing the bullies kind of get the better end of the night there. And I don't know which one of them said it. I don't know if it was Rick or Brian in the letters, but they were like, man, writing that party gave me PTSD. So apparently some version of that actually happened. So
I think a lot of this is probably their lives, which I think is like a fun aspect of it. But I thought this was a little bit point A to point B, which is why I didn't make my top 5, but I still really like this series a lot. I enjoyed the slice of life aspect. I enjoyed these characters. And I think the end of this issue is going to bring something interesting for the next. Obviously, long hair guy, forget their names, but they had a really interesting conversation last issue about friendship and what that means. So I think he's got to either do something good or do something really bad. And I think that's going to be really interesting.
It's funny that you forget their names because it's the name of the creators. It's Brian and Rook.
Oh, really? That's so funny. I never put 2 and 2 together for that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But yeah, it's a good book. It was outside my top 5. It wasn't as like strong as I would say as some of the other issues, but it was still good because I felt it was like too much of the, you know, picking on the other kids and beating them up and stuff like that. So that's why I was like a little bit lower, but still always a great read.
I did think it was funny the kid with the mohawk and everything was like, you know, skate culture is never going to be like popular. They're never going to make TV shows. And all this stuff. It's like, yeah, dude, sure.
And if you guys never seen, which I recommend for you guys to read, especially for like the timing of, not read, but to watch, Tony Hawk's documentary As the Wheels Fall Off, is so much about that, of like him being this, the punk kid of a punk genre, like Tony Hawk, like being an outcast of the outcasts people. And it's really interesting to see how, you know, skateboarding became mainstream, blah, blah, blah. But recommend the documentary if you haven't seen it.
Cool deal. All right. So let's talk about our number 1 comic book.
Did we talk about our number 2?
Oh, no, we never did number 2.
Mike talked about his, and then we just started moving on.
I didn't even realize he talked about his.
No, I talked about my number 3, but I never talked about my number 2.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe your number 2 was a DC book, so you just.
Oh, no.
Okay.
My number 3 was Detective.
Gotcha. Okay.
So your number 2 is what?
My number 2 is actually Rook Exodus.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Nice. My number 2 is Superman. So we'll talk about it in a minute. Yeah.
Mine was Dazzler. I have a lot of fun with that book.
All right, cool. And so I guess now we can go to number 1, and then we'll talk about DC.
Which mine was Superman. So
yours was Superman. What was yours, Brent?
Rook. So
Rook. That's right. Okay. And mine was actually The Moon is Following Us.
Okay.
Yep. So we got that. All right. So now, finally, guys, thank you for watching. All 70 of you, or 71 of you.
I thought you were going to be like, now it's the end of the show.
Yeah. And now we're going to talk about...
No, we're not talking DC.
We're going to talk about the DC stuff, where we stand on it. Obviously, some of the titles, because we didn't talk about it in our top 5. So let's kind of go down the road here about where they were on the dock. So the first one we're going to go back to, let's talk about Absolute Wonder Woman, issue 3.
I like this issue. Issue 1, probably.
Issue 1.
There we go. I like this issue. It's so weird, and I said this in my review. I really like the Wonder Woman main series right now. I'm really enjoying it. I know Brant's on the same page. I know, Mike, you're not. So with Absolute Batman, the reason why I hit so hard, I'm a bigger fan of Batman, but also like Batman hasn't been very good as of late. So it's like, cool, there's like a really good Batman story right now. Wonder Woman, I've been enjoying so much that you compare it to the actual story. I'm like, well, I'm actually enjoying the main series more. And as someone who doesn't, read that much Wonder Woman, like the whole Cirque being this mother character didn't do much for me. But I think that if you're a huge Wonder Woman fan, you will like those elements. I liked it a lot. I just didn't it didn't make my top 5. It was like a solid 4, but Batman blew me away a lot more, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. It wasn't my top 10, so I did like it.
It was my number 6.
Yeah, so it was a little lower for me, but I still enjoyed it. But I get what you're saying, absolutely. No pun intended. But I like the twist on her origin that, she's raised by, instead of raised with the Amazon, she's raised basically in hell, and, has still comes to the same kind of path in a very different way with different motivations, but it's the same path. She's there to protect people, to save the world. So it was like you can take her out of her environment, but you can't change who she is, kind of thing. So I like that aspect of it, but I also like that because of that upbringing, she's a little more
edgy.
More edgy, fierce. less controlled, less barriers to, like, moral barriers to stop her from, like, going all out, that kind of thing. So I think that could be very interesting going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I like the book too. I mean, this is very much like all origin, where you got to see more of Batman, where it was literally like there was a whole plot with other bad guys and everything else leading up to something else, where this was just Wonder Woman. I was a baby. I was dropped off to Cersei from Apollo. She raised me, this and that. And no matter what, I'm going to be the one that's, I guess the best love is to let your child go, type of thing. And I'm Wonder Woman. I'm a witch. I'm this, I'm that. And that's kind of like where the issue ends off. And the only thing I would say when it comes to the book itself is that, okay, we learn about the character, right? Now it's just like, okay, what's the hook to keep you reading? If that's the one little gripe that I would have about it, right? So
I don't disagree. Yeah, there's not much of a cliffhanger when it comes to this issue, but the artwork is really good. I trust Kelly Thompson. So far, I mean, we'll talk about it, the overall stuff, but like so far, I'm really enjoying Absolute. I'm really excited to see what Absolute Superman's going to bring. Should be interesting. We do have a comment I want to read. New comic book day reader / collector, new to this stream. Love hearing these breakdowns / rank lists on the weekly releases. Thank you. All of us also do weekly release reviews. So if you want to check out our channel, they're all on the bottoms here. So if you want to see that, and then we come together every Tuesday to discuss it together.
Cool deal. All right. So the next book that I think we're going to talk about now is going to be Detective Comics, issue 1090, the introduction to Tom Taylor's run on Detective. Ram V was on the book for the longest time. It was just a single story arc, kind of almost remind you like Tom Taylor's run on Nightwing, right? And so the way we open up with this Detective Comics is very interesting, as we wind up getting to see something that is added to Batman's past, and it connects to the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne. And you're just kind of like, holy shit, like that's pretty insane. And
it almost feels like a first too, because we never ever get to see those characters fleshed out. It almost feels like sacrilege if you do.
Right.
And then you're also introduced to this other girl or woman that is in Bruce's life, which I think you're led to believe was the baby of
that Martha put in hiding or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And she's this genetic scientist that has created like this fountain of youth to keep people young. And Batman is actually or Bruce Wayne is considering, taking this drug for the first time. He's sworn that he would never do anything, but he's like, I never made that oath like my dad. So maybe this is okay,
Yeah. And also where, you had the foreshadowing of that where he couldn't catch the kid before, something happened to him. So and it's like, well, I need to, get my body in shape so I can actually protect people and stuff like that. So I really like that thread of it. The art was fantastic in this as well. Yeah. And I like that what happened with the retcon was it gave kind of a Peter Parker kind of vibe to the origin. I said this on Friday first because of Thomas Wayne's actions. In what he did, it led to what happened to them, which led to
With
the
Joe
creation
Chill,
of
yeah.
Batman. Yeah, so it all kind of felt that way for me, and
It's
that
not
made
even a
it.
major retcon by any
Yeah,
means.
it's
It's more of like
not.
a
No,
fill
no,
in
no,
the
no.
blank situation.
Exactly.
I wouldn't even
Yeah,
call it a retcon.
Right.
Yep.
You're right. Yeah, because it's information that we just didn't have. But it doesn't really change like fundamentally anything happen. It just gives us a little bit more information. You're right.
Yeah. I
We
mean,
do have. Oh, go on.
I know I was going to say Tevia did say he's like, well,
Yeah.
why retcon Batman origin again? You're not retconning his origin. You're just kind of giving more of an in-depth look of why Joe Chill like killed the
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
You know?
Instead of it just being a random shooting, there actually was motivation there.
Right.
Which
Which maybe some people purists would be like, no, it has to be random. But like honestly, this is such an interesting story. It's something that hasn't been explored. I thought it was more interesting.
yeah. And it just like adds another layer to it. And it's like you always wonder, like you kind of feel bad when random things happen. It's like, oh, what if this and that? But now that there's like an actual reason and actual purpose, I don't know. What if Bruce finds this out? It's even more like I think it's going to mess with his psyche a little bit more and stuff. So I think it could lead to some interesting developments.
And I
Yeah,
thought,
absolutely.
Tom Taylor, we've been seeing him write a lot of different stuff. Over the years, like I mentioned his Iron Man, Wolverine. Obviously, he wrote Injustice. He's written a lot of different stuff over the years. But what I like about this book a lot is that it feels something really different for him, and it feels a little bit of a challenge because it's a mystery book. It's not, it's not like Nightwing. Nightwing was a very character-driven, almost slice life series, and this is not that. And that's something I also felt like it almost felt like a reboot of Tom Taylor in a great way. Like I was excited for him as well. It's like, oh, cool. You're challenging him as a hero, superhero writer. So
yeah. Let's see what happens. So let's take a vote. I mean, after reading this issue, are you all in for Detective Comics as of now?
And this is the first time I've ever really been all in for Detective Comics. I don't remember the last time where I was like, this is a necessary series to read. And after reading this issue, I'm like, this is a necessary series to read.
I completely agree.
So there you go. So there's one that we're all in for.
And Absolute Wonder Woman, I think too. I think we were all in for that title.
Yeah, sure.
For
sure. Yeah.
I do actually want to
all in. It's like absolute.
Sure. I do want to actually answer this from Tevia. Absolute DC Comics is better than Ultimate Marvel. It's too early to tell, but B, if I really was just going by issue ones, maybe. But it really is too early to tell. I want to see how the other Absolute titles do. The only reason I'm saying maybe is because with Ultimate Marvel, I've only really liked Ultimate Spider-Man. Right. So far with this, I'm like, wow, Absolute Wonder Woman is really different. Wow, Absolute Batman is really different. Again, you have to see as issues go on, but maybe.
Yeah. That said, I love Ultimate Spider-Man. So
yeah, exactly.
If we're judging it just by that book, that's a tough call.
But also that's hard too, because we're hardcore Spider-Man fans. Right. Like if I had to push everything out the window, Spider-Man would be the book I read for all three of us. That's the same way. And I love Batman. Batman's a close second. Yeah. But it's always gonna be Spider-Man. So that's why it's a little bit of a harder biased as well.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on now to the other side of the Bat family. So we got Nightwing here. So what do you guys think of Nightwing? This is obviously a much darker tone, and maybe probably the way Nightwing might be or should be written, because Bloodhaven's very much a very dark town, city, things like that. But I think for me, it was like a complete almost 360 compared to where the book was to where it is now. And I'm just going to give you my quick thoughts on it. Dan Waters wrote this book, right? He also wrote Destro. And for me, it was very similar tone, because we're talking about a weapons supplier, a weapons manufacturer to help Bloodhaven with what's going on in the city. And I'm like, damn, didn't I just read that in freaking Destro? So it was like, I felt like it was very similar that way. Yeah. So I don't know. I honestly, I wasn't overly impressed by that book. That's just me, though.
I thought it
I
was. Oh, go
No.
ahead, Kat.
No, you go first.
Okay. I thought it was fine, right? Like the art was fine, the story was fine. I think I wanted a little bit more out of it. What I did like, and I agree with you about the Destro thing. What I did like was that we're continuing to establish new villains for Nightwing that are just his own. That's not just Blockbuster. So I like kind of expanding his own rogues gallery a little bit with this bird mask person and stuff like that. So I am curious to see where that goes. Is it the best Nightwing book I've ever read? No. But I'm interested. I'm at least curious.
Yeah, no, I felt the same way. I think it's just fine. It gave me enough to want to read the next issue. I thought the artwork was a little bit too dark for what the story was telling, but I also like that they were picking up the threads of Tom Taylor's run. I liked seeing the sister. I enjoy seeing Barbara. We'll see if they'll stay on my pull list, but I think I like Nightwing enough to keep going with it. There was a question, but I couldn't find like a condensed list of all the new Absolute comics coming out. But Emmanuel asks, out of the next wave of Absolute comics coming out, which ones are you guys most excited for? And I could not find a complete list of everything coming out. So to be determined, I guess. I know like you have Flash, you have like JSA, Atom. But yeah, I don't know.
Absolute comics. I know, like,
Let's see.
Martian Manhunter.
We
Yeah.
got Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, and then this is on Wikipedia. There's a couple to be determined.
TBA, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know there was like Atom, so I'm like, oh, that there's
Yeah.
some missing there. So
Right.
out of all of them, like top of my head, maybe Flash, just because of Jeff Lemire. Like I'm interested in
Yeah,
that.
I'm definitely in that one for sure too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll
that
pick up
would be the
all
one.
of them up, but
Yeah. I think all of
Okay.
us Flash just because of Jeff Lemire, yeah.
yeah.
So then with Nightwing, all in?
For now.
I think it's strong, right? Because that's like, oh man, I'm gonna buy every issue.
Yeah,
And
that's
obviously
true.
that's right.
Yeah.
I'm like
kind of
somewhat
in.
in. Yeah, somewhat in.
Somewhat in. Yeah.
I got a foot in to
Yeah.
check out the next issue,
There
right?
you go.
Okay, so there's that. I did notice though that Green Arrow wasn't on this list to discuss.
Oh yeah.
I think just because the 5 slots, so we could talk about Green Arrow though.
Yeah, so because this does
Green-
introduce
Yeah,
the new creative team in here.
but it was also ending a series, so which
Correct.
is so interesting because I've read the Joshua Williamson stuff and obviously read the new one. I was like, damn, I really like Joshua Williams' chapter so much more than
So let's
the last one.
Let's talk about the new aspect of it. So for me, this gave me, and I know you're not going to like this, this gave me Jeff Lemire vibes.
I was gonna
and
say
Andy
that, yeah.
Sorrentino vibe when I read this comic book, right? Gets visited by Batman. He's like, hey, I want to make sure I trust you again there, Ollie, and and this and that. And then we come across this murder that happens with this guy that shines a bright light in your eyes and makes you drink some weird liquid that kills you. And I was like, I don't know, this could be kind of cool. I need to read more of it though before I am all in. But you know what? I think because it's Green Arrow, no matter what, I am all in because there was a long time where we didn't have Green Arrow at all.
So this gave me Arrow the TV show vibes. And
Oh,
so
okay,
that hooked me. So I'm like, okay, this is something different. I really like the previous run, obviously, but this is this goes back to that, and I haven't had that for a little bit. So I'm kind of curious to see where this goes. So yeah, I'm all in.
I'm curious enough to buy the actual first issue, but I didn't like it that much because it did remind me a lot of Jeff Lemire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the window open. I might jump out.
That sounds bad. I might jump out.
Yeah, I might jump out. I mean, I'm out.
And literally,
maybe
if I hate it that much.
Maybe it's like I'm looking in the window. I'm looking in it.
I think I'm totally out. I think if this is bad, then
Cat's on the ledge.
Really
like if this gets worse,
it sucks for my mental health.
She's like looking for help.
Please,
anybody there? I don't know,
I guess
man.
not.
We're here for you, Kat. We're telling you it's gonna be okay. Trust us.
I don't know. After that first prequel, I don't know if I can be all in.
Oh man. But yeah, so there's that. Okay. I'm gonna just throw this out there because it also came out. Did anybody read Catwoman?
No, I
No.
didn't. I didn't.
I did read
that
The
one.
Flash though.
Okay.
Oh, you did read Flash?
Yeah, I read Flash, but go ahead with Catwoman.
Well, I didn't read Catwoman,
Oh, you didn't
so
read it.
people
Okay.
are all just like not even looking in the window, not even.
I think
I
it's the
didn't
same
realize it
creative
came
team.
out. Yeah.
Closed. The window's closed, and
Yeah.
there's curtains. There's just
Yeah.
there's nothing there.
It's a bathroom without a window, but no, I think it's the same creative team. That's why I didn't try it out. So,
And the thing is, the Flash is the same creative team too. So I just wanted to try out an issue to see if like the new direction, because he gets a new suit, and Barry doesn't have his powers anymore, and all this stuff. So I wanted to see where that was going. It vibe is very similar. The art was a little bit lighter, more cartoony, I thought.
okay.
But the whole concept was like Wally takes his whole family on vacation to this, Skartaris, where there's dinosaurs and everything, but it's actually a secret mission. But at the same time, Wally is also on the Justice League satellite, so he's either in two places at one time or there's two of them. I don't know what's going on, but it wasn't enough really to pull me back into it. So I think I'm still kind of on the fence with that until a new creative team takes over.
So you're out right now.
Yeah, I think so. Just because it feels the same as the previous stuff. Just
kind of knocking on the glass, going, "Is there anybody there that's
right?
going to change this?" Yeah,
exactly.
Give me a reason to come on in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's a new writer. It's actually Torrin who's doing Catwoman, so that sucks that we didn't get to read. I actually like her writing a lot. So
I really didn't know it came out.
You like her, right? She's writing Carnage right now, and partially Venom, and
she wrote Valkyries for a really long time, and I liked her Valkyries.
Books are not that. Those Carnage is actually pretty good, but Venom when she wrote the Venom stuff, not good. So
a benefited doubt for her though. She probably had to write those Venom stuff very quickly, because I'm pretty sure that was like the in between of Donny Cates. Probably like, write this.
It's all part of the war and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So. All right, so let's see what else we got here. We got
Superman. We haven't talked about
Superman. So yeah, let's talk about Superman issue 19. So
this is how you write a book, man. I thought this was incredible.
I like the comic book. My only problem is, and you guys might disagree with me on this, but Lois is Superwoman, sorry, and we got so many super people. It's just like everything else. We got all the Venom people, we got Spider people, we got Arrow people, we got all the Flash people. Now we got Superman people. Now Lois is Superwoman. And as much as like I love the dynamic between the two characters and her exploring these powers and the mystery on how she got the powers, I thought all those elements were cool. The Doomsday thing was quite interesting, but I'm just like the Superwoman thing of it. I'm kind of like over all the characters.
Like, why do we need it?
Powers.
I just don't think he's gonna
be. Why do we need it
for long?
Right.
Brent. Like, why do we need it? I didn't read it like she's gonna be Superwoman forever. I read it as a mystery about how she got these powers, and then obviously Doomsday kind of spells out like something bad's gonna happen, probably because she has powers. So that's kind of how I read it. Do I want her to be Superwoman for 2 years? No. Do I want her to be Superwoman in this arc and tell an interesting story? Yeah, and that's something I really got in this issue. I thought the artwork was splendid. And something I love about this run of Superman, and I think they did a great jumping on point with, is that it does feel like it marries the modern age of Superman doing something different, all while like celebrating what has come before with
the
Superman.
Traditional aspect of
it. And I think Williamson really balances that really well. And then the ending, I feel like Doomsday, we haven't had an interesting Doomsday story in such a long time. And the way he's like this morally gray character, just like they've been playing with Lex Luthor, I think works really well here. I'm not the biggest Superman fan in the world, but this has sucked me in this run.
Yeah, the Doomsday stuff especially just like completely hooked me at the end there. But I like all the other stuff too. I like Lex, kind of, battling with, who he used to be and who he's trying to be now and all of that stuff.
I don't think he really cares. He's just like, whatever, bro. He's like, I just want to enjoy my life.
Yeah, but I think that's interesting,
Yeah, I
because
do
he's
too.
he's watching this past version of himself, and he's like, yeah, I don't think I want to be that guy.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I
Yeah.
I love that, and I agree with you, Kat. I think the Superwoman stuff is fine for now. If it goes on like forever, yeah, we don't need that. But in the moment for this story, I think it's fine. It's fun. It's something different. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. So I'm all in for Superman.
So y'all
s-
in for this? I like this comment.
oh,
How about we get Jackpot versus Superwoman?
but I also thought this comment was interesting because they said just introducing new characters with a cool story. I agree, but we see it time and time again. When you introduce new characters, it's very hard for people to latch on. People just
Yes.
like
Yeah.
nostalgia. They like names that they
Yeah.
know. You see
Yep.
it in movies all the time. You're seeing it in TV shows.
Yep.
It's just very hard.
That's the way it
And
goes.
not every character is going to be Miss Marvel. Honestly, a great example is Spider-Boy. Not everyone's reading that book, even though he had a huge, appearance.
Yeah. Another would be Bendis's Naomi. Like
Sure.
they like
Great story,
what happened to her?
everything. Great story.
Holy crap.
Bendis left, she's disappeared. She's not there
Yeah.
anymore at all. So
But yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. My only gripe was the Superwoman thing, like her being that super character. But I do like the mystery aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think Joshua Williamson can tell a darn good story, and I think it will definitely be told here. So I'm excited for it. Definitely for sure.
Graft and Farmer are new. I don't know who they are. Do you know
They
who
were-
Graft and Farmer?
Yeah, they were in that previous arc with the Moonlight Woman and all that stuff.
Oh, okay. I
They
probably
were
just didn't know their
pharmaceutical
name.
guys, like
Yeah.
with all the
Yeah.
kryptonite stuff.
I know
They're
what
the
you're
ones
talking
that
about
sent him
now.
back in time and all that stuff. Yeah.
We also have another comment from Tevia. Mary Jane failed badly, really badly. I would say if she failed, they wouldn't be doing it anymore, and they're still doing it. So the reason why she succeeded was because that Black Cat book, like that, succeeded a lot. And the covers do really well for her. Anytime she's on a cover as Jackpot, I feel like a lot of people buy those covers. So
Yeah.
I don't think it failed. I think you don't like it, but that doesn't mean it failed.
Right.
Was
yeah.
there any other
Action Comics? Are you all reading?
Yeah, Action.
Yeah.
I dropped this art. It's too
I-
much.
I dropped it on this issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
I'm still
I'm
enjoying
not-
it. Yeah.
I'm not, for me, it's not worth $20 a month when I
Yeah.
can buy 4 other comic books.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I definitely, this issue wasn't as strong. I'm still curious about the story though, so I'm kind of torn on it. And
You
with
like
next week-
Monel and that
Yeah,
type
I
of stuff,
do.
though. So
and next week, being a lighter week too, I'll continue with it. But
yeah.
or tomorrow rather. Yeah, so I still enjoy it though, and I'll see how long I can stay on it with it being weekly. But I'm enjoying the story.
I read this issue. I should clear
Yeah.
up. I read this
Right.
issue. It's just
Right,
that,
right.
yeah, with so many books coming out, it's just not my bag. But
Mhm.
I'm excited to see where it goes after this. I think
Right.
weekly is always a bad decision. I've never seen a weekly series and be like, wow, I really need that
Well,
one weekly.
52 was the one for me that was like just I love that series. But
And did you feel like weekly made it better?
I don't know that it made it better. It was just I think it's because it had never been done before at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just something new, and it was exciting time, for DC at the
No,
time.
that's
So
understandable.
yeah.
So do you
I
think
I
now-
didn't read it in the time. I read it like
Okay.
after, so I didn't.
Yeah,
you know.
I read it week to week, so it
Mm.
was really interesting to me, and it was highlighting characters that didn't get the spotlight always, like Animal Man and Booster Gold and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
So do you guys think now, after a couple years of Absolute and DC all in, do you feel like, and I know it's still early, but do you feel like DC is making an attempt to get things back on track?
Yeah, I honestly have not enjoyed DC as much as right now. I think they have just the right amount of titles. I remember back in the day when they like had no titles, and you're like, "Where's the DC books?" I think they picked really good creative teams. I think most of them actually are jumping on points. Like that Superman book, I think there might be some questions that you have, like, oh, why is
Mhm.
Lex Luthor a good guy now?
Yeah.
But I think they do a really good job at jumping on. I think the Absolute stuff is so different. And I
Mhm.
can't really compare it to anything else. I think again, having Scott Snyder behind it, I think was really smart. Having a creator behind an initiative is really where maybe Marvel should go as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I also don't want to be mean to Marvel because I'm really enjoying the X-Men. I have not enjoyed the X-Men as much as I have until now. It's been since Bendis that I'm enjoying the X-Men as much as I
Yeah.
have been. And again, like it's hard for us because like we're huge Spider-Man fans. So like when Spider-Man's doing badly, it's like, oh, that sucks. But then you also have Ultimate Spider-Man that you're enjoying. As a company, I do think DC is doing better. I think they're more coherent. I think Marvel's
Right.
literally all over the place.
Yeah.
And I don't think creator is coming first. And I hope that maybe Marvel learns a little bit from DC with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, DC's killing it. I'm really, really happy with what they've been doing.
I mean, I can honestly say, like, my favorite things right now is the indie books. Then I would say I love what DC is attempting to do, and seems like they're delivering at least upon these early issues to get readers back, or try to anyway. Let's hopefully that they do. And then when it comes to Marvel, on the other hand, see me, like, I don't think, for me personally, I don't think this is the like X-Men stuff to where I'm being blown away. It's just not for me. Most of it is average. I think Uncanny is really, really good for me. But I think everything else is maybe average or just above average. I've read better X-Men stuff, in my opinion.
But when's the last time you read better X-Men
Yeah,
stuff?
it's
Because
been a
that's what I'm
long
also
time.
comparing it to. It's just like
Yeah.
I don't think I've read an X-Men book that has actually engaged me at all in the
Right.
longest time. And I'm not saying this is like for me, exceptional X-Men is because like that's everything I've ever wanted from a Kitty Pryde
Right.
book, but it's exempting that book. Am I saying Uncanny X-Men is like blowing me off the charts? No, but it's an engaging story, telling new characters, telling coherent stories, great artwork. And it really, I genuinely don't remember the last time I actually enjoyed the X-Men. So to
Right.
say that I'm enjoying books that I want to read in the next month is already a check mark for me.
Yeah. And I get that. I mean, like I said, people like obviously gravitate to different ways of certain books, or how they're written, or
Mhm.
their characters. Like, I can totally see you loving Exceptional X-Men because Kitty Pryde is in it, Dazzler because Dazzler's in it. Those are the characters that you love. So obviously it's going to get you excited to read those books, and then when I look at, say you pass away the X books, even those books, like we talked about it before, what really is Marvel doing to get their readers excited?
Nothing's cohesive, not even Ultimate.
Yeah.
And that's really upsetting about the Ultimate Universe. That doesn't even feel connected. And that's
Oh,
like
it's all over the place.
three books
Yeah.
that you can make connected. And that
Right.
really is the hardship of Marvel. And I wish there was stuff that would get you more excited. Like even like
Yeah.
I love Gail Simone and Dave Marquez on Uncanny, but why are you not pushing saying like Gail Simone, Dave Marquez, this is the dream team? They're not
Yeah.
pushing that. They're just like, oh, they're so happy on this book.
Yeah.
Like promote the hell out of that. That's cool, you know?
Yeah, it's weird. Like we're talking about the cohesiveness of DC and how everything's kind of connected and it's making everything stronger. I feel like with DC, they're doing a really good job of balancing both, paying homage to everything that came before, catering to longtime fans, but also doing a lot of new stuff and introducing like a lot of new types of characters and spins on characters and all this kind of stuff. So they're doing a really good balance with that, and everything feels like it exists in the same world. Whereas, like you all said, everything in Marvel is like, okay, X-Men are over here, they're doing their thing. Avengers are over here, they're in like, Avengers assemble, really good. Avengers, okay. It's just kind of weird
And
how
half
it's
the
kind of all over
own
the place.
things they're doing don't even feel as coherent at Marvel.
Right.
Like I'm thinking about runs, like even Take or Leave Nightwing. It was a coherent book for people who enjoyed it. Green Lantern, man, Green Lantern's a great series
Yeah.
that feels like things are progressing, things are happening. Like
Mhm.
I feel like at Marvel, there's no, I don't want to say newsworthy moment, but there's no like, look at what that character just did. Isn't that cool what just happened in
Well, we
that
say
book?
it all the time. There's no character growth, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of that stuff that is going on. Maybe not just in Spider-Man, but just like in all the other books. Like we have these stories that go on and they last forever, but it never truly makes the character grow. For example, Incredible Hulk. I think Incredible Hulk is kind of an interesting book, but does it build on the character of Bruce Banner at all? Not
Mm.
It
really.
even slows it down, honestly, because I
Yeah,
really
it
liked the
really
beginning of
does.
that series, but then the pacing was off. I'm really trying to think of a series, even on you know, Uncanny X-Men. It's not really doing anything with the characters. I think what's actually the most interesting about Uncanny X-Men is the new characters. I'm like, wow, there's new characters that seem somewhat interesting. That's cool.
I think again it feels both classic and new at the same time because you got all the stuff with like the core X-Men and going back into Professor X's history and all this stuff. So
Right.
that's kind of I enjoy both sides of that. But like the Avengers, we were talking about Jed McKay's kind of the way he writes stuff, and we're again with Avengers, they're just going off to fight another event, another thing, another this or that. Now it's Doom and all this stuff, and it's just I really like Avengers Assemble, but it's only 5 issues, and
And that's
I
more
would
because it's
love to see
fun,
that.
you know?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And then you
So,
got West Coast Avengers that's
Yeah.
that's coming. And then you also have, when you look at the X books, there's so many of them, right? So like you talk about the ones that you like Uncanny and maybe X-Factor, Exceptional, but then you go down and then you got NYX, and then you got like the 4 Wolverine books that are out. You get 2 Wolverine books that come out within 2 weeks of each other.
And
Like
neither of them are that strong.
it doesn't really make sense,
yeah,
if Marvel was to do what DC did and like streamline their books,
yeah.
not as many titles, get maybe some more solid creators on their books and editorial ease up a little bit on them, you could see
Yeah.
probably a much better product.
But then their market share wouldn't be as big, Mike. That's why their market share is so big because they put out so many dang books. That comment you posted,
No,
I think
and
it was
they're
by
all
Joe.
like get
Oh, I'm sorry.
canceled.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do want to read that. If you want to read that one, go ahead.
yeah. So he said, "I'm a Marvel fan. The most, but all the YouTube channels I watch is DC fan driven. Whereas the Marvel fandom, Marvel has the highest sales, but fans are the silent majority. And that's the interesting thing because we're Marvel people.
Yeah.
All 3 of us are Marvel readers. We're Marvel fans. It's just right now DC is kind of catching our interest and indies and stuff. But
Right. This
Yeah.
is the
And
time
this
where
genuinely is coming from Marvel fans. Like, I
Right.
just want to,
This is-
like, yeah, we're
yeah,
saying
this
that
is
again.
the time where where there's always that, when you get that kind of like that new initiative, and it's exciting to get these books that come out.
yeah,
So the last time we had that was what was the last initiative before this one?
with DC
For
Yeah, for DC.
What was it?
yeah, what was it called?
I can't
I don't
remember what
remember.
it's called.
When
Yeah, I
Justice
mean, there
League,
was an
like,
initiative. Yeah.
disassembled and everything else, and oh my god, what was it called? You got not Future State. It was like
No,
they had a banner on top of it and they
Ah.
called it something. What the
God,
heck?
I
DC
cannot
Rebirth,
remember.
they're saying. DC
No,
Rebirth?
it's
No,
not
it was after that. Yeah,
after Rebirth. It's after
Yeah,
Rebirth.
I don't remember
It's
either. I
after
know what you're
Future
talking
State.
about.
It was right before this one.
yeah.
It
I
was
know
like
what you're talking
kind of
about
like
too.
this soft thing where they're like, shit, I totally forgot what it's called.
I feel like it's
It was-
around the
it was-
time when Dawn of DC?
Dawn of
Yeah,
DC.
Dawn
Son
of
of
DC.
DC,
There you
that's
go.
it. Yeah,
DC, that's
thank
it.
you.
Yes. So that was another initiative, but it didn't hit. Not
Right.
at all. And so
Right.
that was a failure. This feels like something much more than that.
Yeah.
And again, it's because Scott Snyder returned. It's because there's just more feeling towards it. We actually had a lot of questions. I want to circle back with some of these questions. One was about Batgirl. I can't find the comment. But are we reading Batgirl? Yeah, hell yeah. I'm a huge Cassandra fan. I love
Mhm.
Batgirl, so I'm excited for that
Same.
one. The Leonardo says, why did people forget Thor? I think because like Jason Aaron had the best run. I love Jason Aaron's run, and Immortal Thor. We tried it for like 8 issues, I want to say.
Why
and
did you? I
Yeah.
tried it for like 2.
Didn't-
I tried
I
it.
Oh,
didn't
you
for
tried
like
it for
2,
2?
Yeah.
I tried it for a good
Same.
like 5 issues. I love Jane Foster. I want to read anything she's in, and I couldn't. I just couldn't read it.
I think it was 2 or 3 for me. I liked the beginning of Donny Cates, but he had health
See,
issues.
that's
He
what
had
I
to
like
drop off
too.
of it. Yeah.
I really liked that run, and that was really good. I mean, they had the whole, what was it, the alter ego
Yeah.
thing
Right.
with Thor and all that
And
stuff.
Masterson, yeah.
Yeah, that was freaking cool. Like, I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that. The artwork was really good in that one too. Like, didn't Nick Klein do the artwork in that?
Yeah,
didn't
he
do
did.
that?
I think so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was beautiful. I mean, good stuff there, you know. And then I read Al Ewing stuff, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's gonna be way out there, I think. And then sure enough, it definitely is, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it
Um,
was very out there, but yeah, no, I think that's the sad part. You just gotta put creators first, and I think DC's doing that right now. And we're not saying DC's perfect by any means.
No.
I'm sure there'll be some hiccups along the way, but it's fun just to read some cool stories that just feel like there's a lot of passion behind it. And we want to see the same thing from Marvel. Like we want to see more Ultimate Spider-Mans. We're all really enjoying Ultimate Spider-Man. And obviously, this is not us trashing on Marvel because there's a lot of
No,
great books
absolutely
out
not.
there. There's a
There
lot of
are.
great titles, but it just needs to be. There just needs to be more excitement from Marvel, and
Yeah.
even X-Men. They like you said, there are so many titles. It was hard to be really excited because you're like, well, okay, there's a lot of just X-Men titles. I want to read other stuff too. Someone mentioned
Yeah.
Ant-Man. I'm like, yeah, I love an Ant-Man book. Like that sounds fun. I love Scott. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
But-
there's just those, like, when it comes to Marvel, when I'm reading each week between Indies, DC, and Marvel, I would say that when I grade these comic books, Marvel is the ones that have recently tend to have the lower grades. They're very run of the mill, very average, maybe slightly above average. You get your, one or two that might be really good, but then, for the most part, there's nothing there that really, for me, like, stands out. You get a couple, right? And that's that.
I'm looking at my top 10. I've got one Marvel book, and my top 5 is DC and Image.
I don't even know if I had a Marvel. Let's see. Yeah, and obviously Image, we're talking indie books. Like those are great because of it's literally just creator-owned books. They're just telling the stories they want to tell. So Marvel
was my number 5 this week. So
I had Dazzler and I had X-Factor. Those are my only 2.
Right.
They're my top 10.
Yeah. So I mean, and granted, there weren't a whole lot of big Marvel books this week. So I mean,
Iron Man came out though, and
Iron Man did come out.
Yeah. See, that's a perfect example. So Iron Man, I wound up giving a C+. Iron Man these days is a flagship character that should have top tier writer, top tier artist. And I don't think that the writing was the greatest. And I don't think the art was definitely not the greatest in that book.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to be better than what it was. For a number 1 issue, it needs to be better than that, right?
There needs to be a pitch. There was no. There felt to be like if you went into the room, you're in the elevator, and you're like, okay, let me tell you about this Iron Man book.
Oh yeah, tell me, Kat.
What's the pitch? The pitch is like, oh, well, he's in boardrooms a lot. That's
Okay.
what I gotta tell you.
Okay.
He was in the hospital for a
his
while.
company back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in the hospital. And he's
does
a
he
weak.
like get out of the hospital with like big armor on and stuff?
No. He's weak. He's really weak.
Like, what do you mean by weak?
Like he has no muscles. He doesn't act. There's actually no action. There's no action in this issue.
no.
But don't worry, there will be action. But like in issue 5,
When is there gonna be action?
like end of the arc.
Oh, like 10 issues from now?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds
was
great. Let's
amazing.
go with that.
No, and that's the thing. Like you gotta if Marvel
is
had a new writer come into the room, they'll be like, well, pitch me, tell me something that will like make me want to hire you. I think they gotta treat every writer like that. I don't care what your resume is. Treat it like it's a new writer that needs to pitch you of why I should spend my money to make these books.
that comment you just flashed up there, that is exactly true. He is a journalist, a wartime journalist at that. So it's like,
Yeah,
great.
it's like
that's
he's
where
not
all
even
that
a
comes
comic
from,
writer.
you know?
A book about a war that we've seen 1,000 times in Iron Man before.
And I think Marvel does that because they want a new audience to come to their books. They're like, oh, this
Sure.
journalist is really big. We want to get the people who
And
like his
I'm all for
journalism to read your
that,
stuff.
you know?
But a lot of times they don't convert, and that's the issue.
Right.
Like, and first of all, you have great creators like Rainbow Rowell, who has a huge audience, and you cancel her books. like get more creators that just have audiences that would be comic book readers. Because I think a lot of times, like, is a war journalist really going to bring his fan base to Marvel Comics? Probably not. But someone like Rainbow, who has like the geek fandom that will go to comic books, that would read a Runaways book, probably, yeah. Like, get more creators like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If
What is
you
a
want to
book from
establish
Marvel that you would like to see better? I know it's Spider-Man.
Avengers.
I know.
Yeah,
we all know.
let's forget
But
Spider-Man.
what
What
would
did
you like
you
to
say,
see
Brent?
something?
Avengers. I would love
Yeah.
Avengers to be like a go-to book, like one of the top-notch books. And I love Jed McKay, and it's not clicking for me, at least. So
I want to see a book that feels like an indie book. Like, I want to see more books like Zatana at Marvel. Like, I want to see more Black Label. I want to see more stuff like Hellcat. I really liked Hellcat
Yeah.
because it felt like a very confined series that was just about her. It felt like it had a tone to it. Like, I want to see more books that just feel like Immortal Hulk, that feel like it has its own identity.
Or like Black Cat or Taskmaster. These were really good books that they did. Deadpool is good right now.
Deadpool is the standout.
Yeah.
Deadpool is the standout.
Because doing something different.
Right
it has a different story. It's like has new characters. It has a fun tone that still fits Deadpool, though. It's not out of character for Deadpool, but it's also not the same Deadpool story you've been getting for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, I would want to see another villains book like
Superior Foes
of Spider-Man, but maybe with like different characters, right? Like, you know, you mentioned Brant, like Taskmaster, like maybe Taskmaster goes out with some other guys or whatever it is, something of that nature. That actually would be kind of cool. You know, what I would want to see, I want to see a Captain America book that people are going to want to read, because there is Captain America. I hear nobody talking about that.
Yeah.
And how long has it been? It's been such a long time. No one's been talking
J.
about
Michael
Captain
Straczynski writes that book right now, and nobody talks about that book at all.
Well, it's just the same thing over and over again. We all read that first issue. It was fine. And also that's I don't want to say the problem, because it's great when you hire, creators that have been in the business for a long time, but I hope there's another word than problem. But that, when you only have creators like JMS or Chris Claremont, or, these creators have been working for 30 years, they've told their stories already. Let someone else tell a story.
Yeah.
And unless they have a great different pitch, I always go for that. But I feel like JMS is on Captain America is like, people like JMS, I guess we'll put you on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could get Nova. You could get Darkhawk. They most recently, I think, had a Deathlock, like one shot. There's all these different characters. The Punisher book, I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I know we liked it.
Yeah.
You could get him. You could get him back again. There's all these different things that you can do, and they just, I don't know, they just don't want to tackle it. But I know I would love to see a Darkhawk book again. And we did get a Darkhawk book, and the amulet was passed on, right?
Yeah,
wasn't it?
For like 4 issues. Yeah,
anything since then,
right? Yeah.
I think they just need to put more faith into building something. I think a lot of times they just like have a, fish in the pan. Let's do it quick. And a lot of their events are like that, where like the Blood Hunt is a great example of that, where you're like, you can tell it's like, oh, we need an event now. I guess we'll do this. Like, build something, do stuff like, again, I'll go back to Jason Aaron's run. Do something like War of the Realms. That was something that was built. It felt necessary, and just take your time and tell stories. I think that's necessary.
The only thing I can think of is why Blood Hunt existed was to get Doctor Doom to the point of where he is.
Yeah.
That would be my only reason why Blood Hunt existed, because when you look at Blood Hunt, if you just sat there and said, what's the point of Blood Hunt?
Yeah.
There is nothing there at all.
Right.
And the only thing it led
Vampires.
to that has serious ramification is Doctor Doom being Sorcerer Supreme. So I think that was kind of like the stepping stone to lead to what's going to happen this time.
I think you're probably right. Yeah.
This is a great comment too. They could give Agatha her own show. That weird with like, why not their own book? Also, why does Agatha like? It's hard because I don't want everything to be based on a movie or TV show that's doing well. But like, why doesn't she have her own book? Like they pick and choose different characters. Like Agatha's doing so great. Blood Hunt was because of Blade, and Blade's not even having a movie.
I will say she showed up in the end of the last issue of Scarlet Witch, and she's going to be around for at least another issue or two. But yeah,
that's good. And I know you like Scarlet Witch, which is good.
Yeah.
I know that you've been enjoying that, which you tend to like Steve Orlando's books because he's also writing Avengers Assemble.
Yeah, right.
Joe says, I love Cap America. Why no big name writers wants to write Steve? It's political or something. Worried about backlash. Honestly, yeah. I think after Secret Empire, everyone's scared
you're
to
probably
write
right.
Captain America.
When nothing for nothing, though, like that was the last time anybody was ever talking about Captain America. Ever since then, it's been nothing.
But also Nick Spencer, and again, I don't know the backstory. I'm not sure, but he ran from comics. He doesn't even write comics after Spider-Man and Captain America. That sucks because he's a good writer.
Yep. All right,
People
guys.
scared him off.
Let's wrap this up real quick here. I'll pass it on to Brant, and we'll do our. There's not a lot, but we'll do our most anticipated, and then we'll wrap up this show. I gotta get to bed.
Yeah, I forgot all about most anticipated. I was like, oh, we're wrapping up now. All right, so I like picked completely different books just so we'd be different. So we actually have 9 books to talk about this time. But we'll run through them quickly. We already talked about Action Comics, which is my number 2, a little bit, so I won't spend any time on that. Power Rangers Across the Morphin Grid is my number 3. The reason that one's on my radar is because some people that played Power Rangers are writing, like David Yost is writing a story. He was the Blue Ranger.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, I think that could be interesting. We saw Amy Jo Johnson, do a really good job. So I'm very curious about that one. We'll talk about Hexiles because I'm interested in that book as well. So
it's a Matt Gay book. Again, it was one of those weeks that there's nothing coming out. So I was really looking at the indie issue ones. And I think this honestly would have escaped my radar if it was like a week like last week. But it's about, it's Cullen Bunn, who writes great horror books. And it's about these group of kids they all have different mothers, but the same father. And the dad's dead, and they come together because of that. And I think there's like some supernatural power situation.
Yeah, they all have some kind of power. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like totally invested in that. I really liked Ghost Lore from Cullen Bunn. I think he writes good character stories, and Mad Cave's been killing it. So I'm excited for that.
Mad Cave has been doing some really solid stuff lately. So I agree.
And also, I always want to state this, but Mad Cave treats their creators really well too. I'll say this to the heavens. They treat their creators well. They're telling good stories. They're just my favorite people. So buy Mad Cave books, support good people.
Yeah. And Red Coat number 7 is your number 3, Mike. That's Ghost Machines, the end of the arc, I believe, as well.
So. Yeah, I think the arc actually ended. This is kind of like almost like a
epilogue.
Yeah, where we wind up getting to see maybe some of the ramifications that goes on with Simon Pure because he has lived such a long life. So I'm sure, his past is going to catch up to him in this a little bit.
Yeah. And I think it's supposed to be an emotional issue. So I think something might happen to someone.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. But Ghost Machine books are really good. All right, let's talk about Uncanny Valley then. So this is an interesting issue too. This is on your list, Kat. But all these books, like on all 3 of our lists, are on my list.
I think it's the return, right? This is like the new arc.
Yeah, and it's like I think it's showing us some of the history of how this cartoon world came to be, or something like that.
Yeah,
too, so
yeah, it is. Yeah.
So
Also, Joseph, Beneath the Trees is on top of that pile. Heard there'll be a sequel. I'm going on a plane soon, so I'll be reading that. And
nice.
I have another book I wanted to
Oh
catch up
yeah,
on.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I'm doing I always do it for my newsletter, the top 10 comics of the year. So I'm
Yeah.
curious if we'll end up like landing on that after I read it. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, Uncanny Valley is another one I just really like. It's a great indie book. If you're not reading it, it's like a cool meta series. I tend to like those. So
Yeah.
and it's continuing. So that's great.
Yeah. And then Nightclub 2, issue number 3. Last issue, man, he messed everything up. He messed up so bad. I was screaming to that book. I was like, don't do it, dude. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's crazy. He fell for the hot cheerleader. She got him wrapped around the finger, and he bit her, and now he's gonna pay the price now.
Yeah.
You know, and
not just him.
like,
yeah. Not just him. Everybody's gonna pay the price for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you don't even know what's gonna happen. Like, they could bite everybody and become part of the freaking vampire cult, and it's gonna be like those three against the world at this point, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just he's messed up so bad. It was one of those things. It pulled me in so much that I was like, you know how you scream at your television at a character, don't go in the room, you know, whatever. And it was like that. Don't tell her.
That's when you know you got a good comic, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right, so my number 1 then is Feral number 7. Just a solid series. I enjoy this book so much, and now Lord is missing again, and Patch is really sick. So we'll see how that plays out.
Great book.
We'll go to Devour next, which is a Hyde Street kind of one-shot spinoff.
We didn't talk. I don't think we talked about Hyde Street issue 1. So
okay, yeah. So
Hyde Street was that first issue was fun. I mean, it was just kind of like this weird world where these people are on this street and they have all these powers and stuff like that. Like they kill people. I think Brant and I we talked.
Yeah, I think we did.
Oh man, I wasn't on.
You weren't on.
I probably wasn't on because I was like, I don't think I talked about it with you guys. I liked it more than Rook and Redcoat, but
it's more
the issue 2. When it comes out, there's like 20 books coming out. I'm like, damn it. I wish it was like a week where there's less, but I am getting this one shot. So if I like the one shot, that might tell me, oh, I really need to get that issue too.
I think this one's going to be kind of cool. He's got like this evil, like gym lady or whatever she is. And she gives him like this devour weight loss supplement, and it's probably kills people or something. I'm just all in it just because of like the track record of Ghost Machine itself.
Yeah. It's also the perfect time of year for that kind of book to come out. Too.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be interesting. And then Amazing Spider-Man number 60, the last issue of the Zeb Wells run. So
I always say this, and this is my number 1 most anticipated. But guys, that does not mean I think it's going to be the best book or I'm most excited for it. It means I want to see what happens in the end of this run.
Yeah. And I'm going to say it again. My wrap-up video, and it's going to include this final issue, is going to be on Saturday. So check that out, guys, on my final thoughts of the entire run and how this whole freaking series is finally ended. I can't wait, man. I can't wait. So,
all right. And that's it. That's all the most anticipated we got.
Awesome. So very, very fun show. I had a blast doing this show. Absolutely. This one was good.
Me too.
I thought this was a good idea, guys. To talk about all these books.
We were struggling for a topic too.
Yeah. And then I was like, why don't we just do DC all in? Because you came up with Absolute Wonder Woman first.
Yeah.
And then we just all brainstormed and we came up with it. So really cool stuff. But I also want to thank, and we want to thank all of you guys for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
All your wonderful comments, your questions, and things like that. So, like I said, I know Brant and myself will be back 2 weeks from today. Kat will be back 3 weeks from today. And hopefully you guys will be back with us no matter what. And hopefully when you get an opportunity, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to Comic Book Corner 2.0, which is my channel, Comic Uno, which is Kat's channel, and Only Good Comics, which is Brant's channel. and you'll find them very valuable for all your comic book needs. And don't forget to hit the bell as well so you don't miss any of those notifications. And as always, guys, thank you so much. Have a great new comic book day, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. So
Happy
thanks for watching,
Halloween.
guys. Happy Halloween. Yes.